for sure, Rabbi Yossi is going to come to the tumtum and he says there's no third category in a tumtum. What a tumtum is, for sure he's a male or for sure he's a female.
But we have to identify what it is.
And we're never going to be able to, so that's okay. I'm not worried about it. But for sure I know he's not a third category. With an androgynous, Rabbi Yossi says, maybe he's a third category. He's neither this, neither that. That's Bikkurim, Perek Dalet, Mishnah. So we discussed this androgynous. We discussed how he's similar to men. We discussed how he's similar to women. We discussed also how he's equal to both men and women. And now we're going to see how he's different, a third category. Until now, he was either a man, or he was a woman, or he was both. Now he's going to be neither. In all those examples we're going to discuss now, he's not a man, nor is he a woman. He's a third category completely. In other words, let's talk bathrooms. According to the first chapter that we discussed in Androgynous, he goes to the main bathroom. He goes to the male bathroom. According to the second chapter, he has to go in those things to the female bathroom. In the third chapter, he can choose whichever one it is. He can choose either men and women. And in the fourth chapter, he cannot use not the men's bathroom and not the women's bathroom. He needs the third one for him. That's the analogy. Okay? כיצד אינו שווה לא לאנשים ולא לנשים? How is he not equal not to men and not to women? So let's see the first one. אין שורפים תרומה על טומאת זיוותו. So if he touched truma when he was a zav, when he had an emanation, whether it was white or red, we don't care. So usually if somebody touches truma and the truma is not his tame, you need to burn it. So now what do you do with this guy? Do you burn it? So if you go according to Mishnah Gimel, to Mishnah Dalet that we did, of course you burn it. Because he's both a man and a woman. So it doesn't matter if it's white or red, you need to burn it. But it says when it comes to truma, you don't do that. אם ראה לובן או אודם, if he saw white or red, ונגע בתרומה, and he touched תרומה, אין שורפים את התרומה. We don't burn the תרומה. Why? לפי שתרומתו בספק. Because his תרומה is ספק. That's if he saw either white or red. But what happens if he saw white and red together?
Both.
If he saw both, then what? אבל אם ראה לובן ואודם כאחד, but if he saw for sure white and for sure red, then there's no ספק. I don't care which way you want to go. Yeah? שורפים עליו את התרומה. Then you do burn the truma on him. שממה נפשך טמא, because for sure he's טמא. There's no ספק. If it's ספק woman, it's white, and if it's ספק red, it's red. So this is the first time we find the androgynous that is not like a man and not like a woman. You don't burn the truma on it, which on a woman and a man you burn the truma. And other things. ואין חייבים עליו על ביאת מקדש לא כאנשים ולא כנשים. And also, he's not obligated coming to the temple when he's tameh, when he's impure. Yeah? Let's say he's impure and he has his period, or he's impure and he had an emanation, and he comes to the mikdash, which you're not allowed to do. You cannot punish him now. Why can't you punish him? Because he's safek impure. You don't know if he goes by the white or he goes by the red.
But if you have both of them...
No. Over here it's going to come. Yeah.
That's the logic. If you go...
Yeah. You're right.
So why can he go to the mikdash?
Over here we're talking, he had one of them, not both of them.
Oh.
He had one of them. אפילו ראה לובן, over here he says, even if he saw white and red, כאחד ונכנס למקדש, אינו חייב משום תרועת מקדש, שנאמר בעניין שילוח טמאים מהמקדש. It says the mikdash is different than truma, that even if he sees both, he's still not obligated. So because over there's a special verse. It says, who do you send out of the temple? For male to female. And he is neither male nor to female. He's not included in there. There's a special verse when it comes to the temple. Zachar vadai v'nekeva vadait. 100% male or 100% female. Those you send out of the mikdash. And he is a third category. He is neither. אבל לא אנדריגונוס שהוא ספק זכר, ספק נקבה. So there's a difference between truma and the temple. Truma, if he has both, he gets, we don't burn the truma. But on the temple, if he has both, since there's a specific verse about the temple that you need to be 100% male or 100% female, then we don't... I don't know, there's no you cannot punish him if he does go.
Okay.
ואין נמכר בעבד עברי לא כאנשים. And also there's another thing, he cannot be sold as a Jewish slave. שנאמר ונמכר בגנבתו, because it says that he is sold in גנבתו. So the case over here is somebody stole something and he cannot afford to pay it back. He doesn't have enough money. So what does the court does? He sells the guy on the market and he gives the money back to the guy who has a loss. And it says in Androgynous you cannot sell this way. Why? Because the verse says ונמכר בגנבתו, and he was sold in his גנבה. אם אין לגנב כדי לשלם, הרי הוא נמכר כעבד בעד גנבתו. If he doesn't have enough money to pay, he's been sold as a slave. ודרשו חכמים בגנבתו, in his. In other words, you only sell a male. You only sell a male. בגנבתו ולא בגנבתה, and not in her. If the female, you don't sell her. ומכאן שהאיש נמכר בגנבתו, from here we learn that the man is sold when he steals something, ואין האישה נמכרת בגנבתה, and the woman is not sold when she steals. ואף האנדריגונוס, and also the Androgynous, הואיל והוא ספק אישה, since he is doubt by a woman, אינו נמכר כעבד בעד גנבתו. He cannot be sold when he stole something. So it says, but that only pertains to male being a slave. How about a female being a slave? So it says that if a person is very, very poor, he's allowed to sell his daughter as a slave. So the question is now going to be, can he become a slave through being sold as a daughter? ולא כנשים. It says no, he cannot become a slave in any manner, not even in a womanly manner. שאב מוכר את ביתו הקטנה לאמה, that a father is allowed to sell his small daughter as a maid servant. והואיל ואנדריגונוס ספק זכר, and since this one can claim that he's a male, אין אביו יכול למכרו, his father cannot sell him. שאין אב מוכר בנו לעבד, that his father does not sell his son as a slave. Another thing that there's a problem with Androgynous. We learned this whole in, I think it is in Zeraim. This whole thing in, no, it's actually Vayikra. Yeah, if a person says "Erki alai," my worth is on me. So it says if he's a male, he has to give 30 silver. If he's a woman, he has to give 15 silver. If he's old, he gives less. You remember this whole thing? To the temple.
Why would we say Erki alai? What does it mean?
It means I have to pay whatever I'm worth. So the Torah gives a definite, yeah. So the Torah has a definite amount of how it's not.
Does it voluntary.
Yeah, it's not how you are worth in the marketplace as a slave. The Torah has how many silvers we're going to sell. So שכתוב בפרשת ערכים, it is written in פרשת ערכים, והיה ערכך. This is how, if a person says my worth is on the temple. הזכר מבין 20 שנה ועד בין 60 שנה 50 שקל כסף. It says the male has to pay 50 silver. ואם נקבה היא והיה ערכך 30 שקל. If it was a female, 30 silver. ואם מבין 5 שנים ועד בין 20 שנה, from 5 to 20, והיה ערכך הזכר 20 שקלים, the male will be 20 שקל, ולנקבה 10 שקלים, and to the female 10 שקלים. And continues. מכאן שאין תורת ערכים נוהגת אלא בזכר ודאי או בנקבה ודאית. From here, if a person says ערכי עליי and is an Androgynous, so you can say maybe you bring somewhere in between. He says no, you don't bring it all, because the value is only on 100% male or 100% female. You cannot say the value is in between. There is no value in between, because there's only two products here. The Torah discussed two products that it has a value. Androgynous doesn't have a value. להוציא אנדריגונוס שהוא ספק זכר, ספק נקבה. To take out the androgynous, that is doubt male, doubt female. ואם אמר, and if somebody walks in the street, and he says, הריני נזיר, it says, I'm a Nazirite, שזה לא איש ולא אישה. That this is not a man, and it's not a woman. So in other words, if you go in the street, you say, I'm a Nazirite, and this is not a man, what is then?
If he's not a man, he can't do the.
He's not a man.
He can't do the.
So he's
not a Nazir.
So he's not a Nazir. If he says he's not a female, also same thing, he's not a Nazir. And if he says if he's not a male or he's not a female,
then there is no Nazir, no thing for him, no?
He says, if the guy is walking down the street, I'm
so
telling you...
he can be a Nazir if he's not a man or a woman. How can he be a Nazir?
So the guy who's saying it, is he a Nazir now? I'm going to be a Nazir if this guy is not a male and not a female.
Yes.
So he is. Let's see.
I think yes.
So that's the question. מי שראה אנדריגנוס ואמר, somebody who saw an Androgynous and said, הריני נזיר, behold I'm a Nazirite, אם זה אינו איש ולא אישה. If this is neither male nor female. So the answer is, he's a Nazir. He is a Nazir.
He is a Nazir.
Yeah, mipnei, because he's not half a little man and he's not a little woman. That's what the other thinking would be. He's a little bit man, a little bit man. No, he's 100% not a male and he's 100% not a female. מפני שאנדריגנוס אינו איש, לא איש גמור ולא אישה גמורה. He's not a man, neither is he a woman, and therefore if a person say that, he is correct. Rabbi Yossi Omer, and here we're going to come to an understanding of what Rabbi Yossi says, Androgynous bria bifnei atzmahu. It says an androgynos is a creature on his own. He's a third category. He's a complete, it's almost like he's saying, you know, in every, there are wild ducks, there are domestic ducks, right? Or let's call it wild ducks and the domestic ducks. And then there's another species, somewhere in between the wild and domestic ducks. And it says it has some qualities of the wild ducks, it has some qualities of the domestic ducks, but no. In other words, it has nothing to do with this. It's a third species. It's a third species. Don't call it this and don't call it that. You have to put him in the third category. That's what Rabbi Yossi says. Androgynous bria bifnei atzma. It's a creature on its own. ולא יכלו חכמים להכריע עליו אם הוא איש או אישה. Because the sages were trying to classify him in the rules. Is he a male? Is he a female? They was trying to put classification on him. Where is this androgynous? And they weren't able to. So יש מפרשים, according to those who explain, שלדעת רבי יוסי, יש באנדרוגינוס שלושה ספקות. According to Rabbi Yossi, an androgynous has three things are not sure what about him. What does it mean? ספק איש, first of all, he is maybe he's a man. That's the first thing.
Now, I don't understand why they say maybe. I know for sure he has the male parts, and I know for sure he has the female parts. The question is what the Torah's definition of a male, a guy that has male parts, he's a male. Somebody has female, she's a female. Why isn't he a man and a woman? Why is not, they say he's not a man and not a woman, why don't they say he is a man and a woman?
We have such an opinion. We did have such an opinion.
That he is a man and a woman.
You remember the laws, for example, if you kill him, if you do this thing. For that aspect, they tell you that because they couldn't, for example, when it comes, for that aspect it's easy. Because he's a human being, you're not allowed to harm him. Yeah. But when it comes to marriage, you have to pick one side. Or even that you don't do. You could have said he can marry whichever one he wants. Right. Which we don't say. We say he can only marry a woman.
A woman, because
yeah.
that you consider a male.
But that
because it's for the chumrah.
Yeah, but that you can understand the idea. Actually, you can learn the other way also. There's a problem if he's a male and a person marries him and he lays with him. There's a problem with lotishka. You're not allowed to sleep with a male. Two women getting married together is not a prohibition from the Torah. So that's why they instituted the rabbis. It's less problematic if we make him a male Torah-wise than a female. So for that they put him over here. But even there, not sure. But it says that's the best we can do, so we'll put him in this category. But it's not like we know 100%.
And one more, last question. I know that in the Talmud time that they didn't do it, but let's say, God forbid, today יש לך כזה אחד. And you go to him, and he go to the doctor, and he cut him the shmekale. And he said, I'm a woman. What's the no?
No.
Is it still Androgynous?
Yeah, there's not. It doesn't difference.
Now he doesn't have male parts.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like a person who you cut off his hand and he says, I'm not a human. You're a human without a hand. So he's Androgynous without a zero. It doesn't change the.
It doesn't. But by the halacha, it doesn't change anything.
It doesn't change anything.
Start to shoot him hormones.
Nothing.
And make him
Can the male part of an androgynous, can the male part get a female pregnant, and can the female androgynous part get pregnant?
From what I understand, an androgynous is like a mule. A mule, you say it?
Yeah,
he cannot make a new cell. And from what I understand, a true androgynous cannot do neither.
Neither, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why the Torah gets into this, because Pru has to be there usually when you're going into the marriage. So since you can't, then you can't. But I also was thinking when Ari asked that question, when the Torah is asking a question in the Mishnah and then is answering, and it says because we're not sure if it's this or this, okay, or because he's both, okay. But if it says it's because he's neither, then why don't they then switch over and say, wouldn't that follow the law of Tumtum? The
Tumtum and androgynous exactly the same laws.
Same laws.
Exactly the same laws. They're both exactly the same. There's no difference with all these laws. They're exactly the same. What we do with the Tumtum, we do with the androgynous. Okay, so let's see how Rabbi Yossi has three doubts. Safek ish, first of all, maybe he's a male. Safek isha, maybe he's a female. Safek bria b'fnei atzma, or maybe he's a third category completely. Ma she'en ken letana kama, and it is not so according to the first Tana who wrote the Mishnah. She'en bo ela shtei sfekot. According to the first Tana, he says, no, he's not Safek 3. In other words, he's not a creature on his own. We know for sure that he's male or female. We don't know which one. But we do know 100%. There's no question in the first Tana's Kama mind. He says, I know for sure he's either a male or a female. He has to be one of them. But he's not for sure not the third category. But so sometimes I'm going to treat him as a male. Sometimes I'm going to treat him as a female. And sometimes I don't know, so we leave him in limbo. That's not what Rabbi Yossi is saying. Rabbi Yossi is saying something completely different. He's saying there's a third possibility. He's either a male or a female, or he's
neither.
He's something new, which is not called the male, not called the female. It's a third category. It's something else. It's not male, not female. That he comes with a new thing. Letana Kama en bo ela shtei sfekot. According to Tana Kama, you only have two doubts: safek ish or safek isha. Doubt whether he's a male or whether he's a female. Ubatosfot pirshu, the Tosfos explained, שרבי יוסי אינו חולק כלל התנא קמא. But they say this is according to the way we learned it up to now. Rabbi Yossi and Tana Kama disagree if there's a third category or not a third category. But Tosfos Yom Tov says, the Tosfos says, אלא בא לפרש טעמו. He says no. What Rabbi Yossi is doing is explaining Tana Kama. He doesn't come to argue with him. שאנדריגונוס בריאה בפני עצמה הוא, that Androgynous is the third category, כלומר לא בריאה ממש, אלא בריאה שהיא ספק זכר, ספק נקבה, שלא יוכלו חכמים להכריע עליו אם הוא איש או אישה. In other words, they're saying that Tana Kama is actually, the Rabbi Yossi is actually holding like the Tana Kama. He's not saying it's a third category. He says in halacha there is a third category because of the problem, but not really that he's a new species. That's not what he means to say. Aval tumtum, now we're going to see the difference. But a tumtum eino ken. But according to all commentaries, tumtum doesn't have, according to Rabbi Yossi, a third category. Pa'amim shu ish, pa'amim shu isha. There are times that he's a man, and there are times that he's a woman. Yesh tumtum shu zachar, v'yesh shu nekeva. There are sometimes a tumtum is going to be a male, and sometimes a tumtum is going to be a nekeva. In other words, a tumtum is not an androgynous. What's a tumtum? Yeah. A tumtum is we are not sure what it is.
Oh, right.
But it is something.
It looks something, but you don't know.
But for sure it is something. I don't know if it's a male. In other words, it doesn't have two parts.
It's not clear.
Oh, so for him, we are going to have the same laws as an androgynous. We're not sure what it is, but for sure, Rabbi Yossi is going to come to the tumtum, and he says there's no third category in a tumtum. What a tumtum is, for sure is a male or for sure is a female.
But we have to identify what it is. And
we're never going to be able to, so that's okay. I'm not worried about it. But for sure I know he's not a third category. With an androgynous, Rabbi Yossi says, maybe he's a third category. He's neither this, neither that. That's the difference between a tumtum and androgynous. ובתוספת הגרסה היא, אבל טומטום אינו כן, אלא ספק איש או ספק אישה. טומטום, we're just not sure. Is either this or that. כלומר, שטומטום הוא זכר ודאי או נקבה ודאית. A tumtum for sure is one. אלא שהוא מכוסה, but he's covered, either covered in the old times or covered from us, in our eyes. ויש שספקו יכול להתברר, and there are times that you'll be able to, when he grows up, maybe you'll be able to see it. Yeah? מה שאין כן אנדרוגינוס, שהוא ספק לעולם. But Androgynous, there's nothing to grow up. It's not like one day it's going to be revealed. Yeah. It can be revealed through medicine or through other things, whatever it's going to be. You will always would not know. A tumtum, then maybe there will one day in the medicine will come to a stage where they'll be able to tell you for sure it's a male or for sure it's a female. But with an androgynous, they will never be able to tell you for sure it's a male and a female because it's both.
Today they have in the chromosome, female is XX and male is XY. So could they do it that way in a tumtum?
I don't think so. I don't know if it's a good question. I was also thinking about it. I know there's cases that it's very, very rare that a person has a female genetic but male parts, or male genetics and female parts. And I think in those cases you will go in Judaism by the parts and not by the chromosome, like you're asking. I think, again, this is Mishnah time. I'm not sure how they handle it today in modern day halacha. But I am assuming from what we've learned, the important is the part and not the chromosome. I think we go by the parts and not by the chromosomes. But I'm not sure. It's a very good question. שיר ספק לעולם, שכן חכמים לא הכריע בו אם הוא זכר או נקבה. Because by Androgynous we don't know, maybe he's a third category, he's not a male nor a female. ואף לפי הרש הבאנו לעיל, also according to the Rash, הפירוש הוא, the explanation, שטומטום אינו ספק בריאה בפני עצמה אלא, או זכר ודאית או נקבה ודאית. But it looks like a tumtum, we do know for sure he's not a third creature. He's either a male or a female. The fault is with us, not with him. With Androgynous, the fault is within him, not with us. He's a third category maybe.
So actually the difference is Androgynous, it could be a third bria. But tumtum, you take it away. It's either man or either woman.
That's right.
It can be a third.
And sometimes you would never know. But the creature that the person is one of them.
New creature.
Very good. Salik Masechet Bikurim, Hadran Alach Seder Zeraim.